It's 4:30 p.m. here in Seoul. I'm Devin Whiting at the Arirang News Center, and we're breaking into our regular programming to bring you today's briefing from the South Korean health authorities. That should be starting momentarily, and we'll be getting a breakdown of the latest numbers on COVID-19, as well as details on the changes to be made to the social distancing rules. It looks like the briefing is going to start now. Let's cut over.
And
we will have Mr. Son Yeon-rae presenting the regular briefing, and we also have others present, and we will be providing sign language translation. First, we will hear from Mr. Son Yeon-rae of the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters. It is February 14th, Sunday, and I will start the regular briefing today. As of midnight of today, there were 304 newly confirmed cases. Yesterday, 8 people passed away. We pay our respect to the deceased, and we also pay our condolences to the family members. I will now explain about the developments for the past week. From February 8th to February 13th for the past week, on a daily average, there were 353 newly confirmed cases per day, and this is similar to 364 of the previous week. However, for the regions in the metropolitan city, it was around 280, which was an increase from around 250 from the previous week. In the metropolitan area, for the past 2 weeks, we have seen an increase in the newly confirmed numbers, and we are seeing a fairly large number of patients appearing per day. And for the non-metropolitan area, compared to 96 from the previous week, there has been a decrease. And there was a decrease for 2 weeks in a row. And in all of the regions, there were around less than 30 newly confirmed cases per region, which was showed that it was stabilizing. Across the country, we are seeing most of the numbers stabilizing. However, in the metropolitan area, reproduction level is a bit around 1, while for the non-metropolitan areas, it is less than 1. And right now, we have summed up all of the analyses and investigation, and we have seen that the number was more than 60%, and we are seeing that personal infection is higher than cluster outbreaks. However, for cluster outbreaks in the business centers and saunas and sports facilities, we are seeing many occurring, and it is expanding. When we sum up the situation from the last week, for the non-metropolitan area, we are seeing a decrease for the third wave of infection, and we are seeing a stabilization. However, for the metropolitan area, there are some limitations. On top of that, with the Lunar New Year holiday, there would have been an increase in the movement, and with the use of the multi-use facilities, there could be higher risks, and these risks may be coming up this week or next week. And we have to make sure that we don't see another spread. Therefore, we have to be especially careful. For the areas where the foreign residents are concentrated, and for the foreign workers, I will now update you on some of the findings that we have. Right now, through the quarantine phase, we are monitoring and preventing spread of COVID-19 that is happening through entry and exit. However, there are the infections that are already residing in Korea, and there are cases where the foreign workers do not know the disease control measures in detail. Therefore, for the facilities that the foreign workers mainly visit, we're going to make sure that we convey disease control measures so that these can be adhered to. The Ministry of Law is monitoring many different personnel organizations and the food marts that are mainly used by the foreign residents. And they are making sure to convey the disease control measures and monitoring them on a regular basis. Starting in July, for the areas that are concentrated in the foreign residents and for many of the human resource offices, we have done site checks, and we're going to do that continuously. Ministry of Labor has focused on the business sites where a lot of foreign workers are working in, and the disease control measures have been conveyed to, and these are being monitored to see if they are being complied with. And through many different governmental organizations, many of the measures for disease control and COVID-19 are being conveyed. Also, for business sites in the agricultural sector, around 100 is being monitored. In the metropolitan area, there are factories related to making kimchi and also processing meat, and these will be voluntarily monitored, and the checklist will be submitted. Right now, around 7,000 foreign workers are working in the metropolitan area and more in other areas as well. So we're going to do one-on-one call checks, and we're also going to make sure to monitor the dormitories for foreign workers. Now, we are going to also strengthen the disease control measures for those without homes. So there are those out on the streets, and there are those that are living in very small houses. And we are actually getting the status of the current statistics for these people. Right now, around 19,000 homeless people have been checked, and 113 have been quarantined as a result. The government will make sure to minimize the infection in the blind spots, and it is going to make sure to visit those in the vulnerable class and make sure to pay attention to them as well. Yesterday, there was an announcement to lower the level of social distancing measure. And with the lengthening of COVID-19, many people were having a hard time, and the economy is worsening. Therefore, the measure has been lowered. However, once we see a resurgence of the third wave, this social distance measures will have to be heightened once again, and we have to be at a painful situation. So we want to ask you to pay attention so that we don't have to elevate the social distancing measure, and therefore we want to ask you to pay heed to it. To our citizens, we ask you to avoid using confined and closed spaces, and we also ask you to follow the disease control measures such as wearing masks and keeping away from others. And when you are making use of the multi-use facilities, please refrain from visiting those that are very concentrated, so that it makes it hard for you to adhere to the social distancing measures. So please refrain from that. And we also want to ask the business owners as well. Once you expand your operation, it is only natural for the risk to grow. Risk of COVID-19 has to be minimized. So we ask you to follow the disease control measures, and we ask you to strictly adhere to any measures that are applied by the government as well. And we also want to ask you to monitor the site so that face masks are worn. Please ventilate your site often, and especially if you have a lot of shared items, please make sure to sterilize them often. We're trying to make sure that we are expanding operation while limiting any regulations in commercial, but we have to make sure that there is voluntarily disease control in order for this to be possible. If these measures are not complied with, then it will be difficult for us to continue such a situation. Therefore, we want to ask everyone to cooperate. The government will also make sure to cooperate, and we will also be in preparation for any risk that might arise from the Lunar New Year holiday. We will work together with many different organizations such as the local government so that we can stabilize the third wave of infection, and we will make sure that everything runs smoothly. Thank you.
네, 지금부터 질의응답 시간을 가지겠습니다. 배석자.
And that'll conclude our coverage of this briefing. Thank you for watching. Arirang News will be back at 6 p.m. Korea time.
Lately, COVID-19 has been spreading through contact with family and friends. Preemptive testing is vital to prevent mass outbreaks. One member of each household is advised to get tested.